approaches. A gold and ivory Space Needle towers in the sky above Seattle, its legs planted firmly in solid hardpan just across the street from America's first high-speed monorail. One of two trains is already here and operating today. Another exciting glimpse of tomorrow that the World's Fair is bringing to Seattle. I'm Bill Nielsen, and this is one of the Alweg monorail trains which is just now completing its test runs on the World's Fair line. In the next half hour, you'll have your first monorail ride by television. But first, let me try it out for you. This is another door into the future and the world of tomorrow.
World of Tomorrow. An inside view of Century 21, the Seattle World's Fair. Regular television cameras are now stationed at the World's Fair terminal of the new monorail line in Seattle. Less than a minute ago, the train left the fairgrounds. It's now speeding down Fifth Avenue toward the $250,000 downtown terminal at Westlake Avenue and Pine Street. At that location, we have a portable TV camera that's known affectionately in the trade as a creepy peepee. And now we are in the train at the downtown terminal. It will take just 96 seconds for the monorail train to complete the run from the World's Fair, slightly more than 1 mile away. And when the two trains are operating at capacity, more than 10,000 passengers an hour can be transported to and from the fair on the Alweg Century 21 monorail.
Well, we made it right on time. Next time, you'll have an opportunity to come with us. The train is parked right now right over Pine Street with automobile traffic moving along below us. In just a moment, we'll fill you in on everything that happens here at the Westlake Mall Terminal. But first, I think we should talk to a gentleman who has literally lived with this project day and night, 7 days a week since it was first talked about. It's Mr. Sixton Holmquist, who is the president of Alweg Monorail and Alweg Rapid Transit of Washington State. Mr. Holmquist, I guess the past few days have been very happy ones for you and your staff.
They have indeed, because it's always wonderful to see a project come to the finish line.
It does represent the culmination of a great deal of hard work, does it not?
It does.
How many people do you have on your staff?
Well, actually, we are quite few. Up here in Seattle, we've had about 12 people working on the construction part of it. And back in New York, we've had about 10 people working on the trains themselves and on the electrical installation and questions pertaining to those.
Did you acquire your people here locally?
Our Seattle office has been staffed practically entirely out of Seattle. We've had, as I said, 12 people in the office. 11 of them comes from Seattle, and only one man comes out of our office in New York.
When will the second train arrive, sir?
The second train should be here around the 20th of March.
Do you have any idea how many people will be carried from here at the Westlake Mall to the Century 21 Fair site?
You mean in all? The total sum of them? No, that's very hard to even guess at.
What are the capabilities of the trains?
Well, we are capable of handling 10,000 people an hour, and our stations are designed for that. And these are really terminal stations rather than stations. And our trains can take that capacity too.
Speaking as one who has already had his first monorail ride, I'd like to heartily recommend it to each and every person who visits the fair. It's a great ride.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Holmquist.
This is the end of the line at the fairgrounds. Starting out with a curve from the Westlake Mall into Fifth Avenue at this end, the line makes another big curve off Fifth into the fair. Like everything else on the grounds, this is a colorful sight, and the colors are red and blue. Vaulted plastic roofs are directly over the two rails. At both terminals, passengers load and unload under cover. At the other side of the terminal structure, there is one of the main entrances to the fair. Visitors who come to the grounds via monorail from downtown move down a wide walk ramp to this row of ticket booths. They're only seconds away from the Space Needle, and a turn to the right leads them to the U.S. Science Pavilion and the numerous private exhibits at this end of the fairgrounds. Traffic flow of passengers at both terminals is arranged for fast, easy loading and unloading of the trains. Passengers always enter through outside doors and leave the train through doors on the opposite side facing the other rail. Passengers leaving either train move out to one central platform and walk in one direction, while entering traffic, except for round-trippers, flows in from the opposite direction. At the exposition terminal, there is a lower level below the passenger platforms, and here, all the maintenance work and regular service on the two trains will be handled. We'll be back a little later for an underside view of the train at this station, but right now, it's still at the other end of the line, and let's switch to our creepy-peepy camera at the downtown terminal. Since the Westlake station is raised 25 feet above the street, it's equipped with speed ramps to give the passengers an easy boost from street level up to the loading platform. Unlike an escalator, the speed ramp is a traveling belt on a gradual slope. It has its own roof providing cover in seasons of light Puget Sound mist. But as all Seattleites know, these come mostly after the fair closes next fall. At the other end of the station, another speed ramp takes arriving passengers down to the street. Almost unique among major expositions, the Seattle World's Fair is only 1.25 miles from the heart of the city, and because of the monorail, the Westlake Mall is actually a sort of downtown gateway to the fair. Tickets, one-way or round trip, may be purchased at either terminal station. 75 cents round trip, 50 cents one way. Children, 35 cents and 50 cents. It will not be necessary to purchase a World's Fair admission ticket to ride the monorail. No action at the ticket booths yet, but now that the test runs are completed, it won't be long.
Here we are now inside the monorail train, and I'd like very much to introduce Mr. Dick Spencer, the gentleman who designed the exterior conformation, these beautiful seats which you see, and selected the various colors which he will describe for us now. Dick, incidentally, this is mentioned as the blue car of the monorail line. But actually, it doesn't look very blue from where we sit right now.
No, not exactly. The blue actually is just on the exterior.
Will you describe those two shades of blue you have?
We use a very light blue for the basic part of the car and a dark blue stripe.
They look beautiful with the aluminum trim, too.
Yes.
Now, the interiors.
We use a beige for the walls, and the upholstery, we use a dark coral red.
Will the second car be identical to this?
It's identical car, but the colors will be reversed. There we use the beige exterior with a red stripe, and the interior will have a light blue upholstery material.
And, of course, the walls will be red, is that correct?
No,
I
no,
beg dark blue, correct?
Yeah.
Let me ask you this. How long have you and your crew been working on this project?
Over a year we've been working on the train, and the preliminaries started, I think it was in January.
You make your home here in Seattle?
No, my home's in Los Angeles.
It's been real enjoyable talking with you, Dick. Suppose we move up to the front of the car now, shall we?
Whether by coincidence or design, the blue train rides on the saltwater side of the line, and the red train will ride on the sunrise beam. The 124 seats in the train will seat about 250 passengers. Considering children, the total would be somewhat higher. During rush periods, with a full complement of standees, each train can carry 450 persons. Why is monorail a major feature of the Century 21 exposition? Because most authorities agree that new designs in metropolitan transportation will be a very significant feature of life in the 21st century. Urban centers, with a surrounding metropolitan and suburban complex, will have new transportation demands. Public transportation must be fast, and the serious problem of traffic congestion must be solved. Attention has focused on monorail because it provides high-speed transportation above the street, on a structure that is architecturally pleasing, that creates very little interference with normal traffic, and little obstruction of sunlight and air. Other cities of the world will watch with great interest the operation of Seattle's new monorail.
Are you ready for your monorail ride? We're all set. Our creepy peepee camera, portable camera, is aboard. We'll be sending you live pictures along the entire monorail route as long as our picture holds steady and firm. Now, if our driver is ready, we'll move out. You'll notice that the monorail car accelerates very smoothly, very rapidly, and is very quiet. We might point out that this trip will be made at about 50% of the normal monorail train speed, inasmuch as it is a test ride staged especially for our World of Tomorrow cameras. We're just passing Times Square now, and as we move along, may I describe the complexities of this ride technically and the pictures that you're receiving. Our Creepy Peepee camera, of course, is shooting pictures through the microwave transmitting device operated by Pacific Telephone Northwest. This picture is being transmitted from the monorail train to the Century 21 Fairgrounds and is coming to you live and direct at this very moment. As you watch the pictures, they are being taken. Moving along now, we see a magnificent sunset taking place over to the westward, and to the east, which we just saw, a view of Lake Union, the huge bridge which is spanning the Lake Washington Ship Canal, a bridge which will carry traffic from the great north-south freeway through Seattle. Also, the work that is in progress on that freeway. We're rapidly approaching the Seattle Post-Intelligencer building now, and beyond that, Seattle's great apartment hotel, the Grosvenor House. Moving along to the westward now, we see the outline of the majestic Olympic Mountains as they form their background for beautiful Puget Sound. Rapidly in the distance up forward, we see the great Space Needle, one of the major attractions at Century 21. The roof of the Century 21 Coliseum, which will house the central theme exhibit. In the distance, Queen Anne Hill. Now we're final turn of the monorail as it approaches the Century 21 terminal.
Only about 30 seconds to go. The Century 21 monorail should be reducing speed now, then coming around the bend and into the station. Just a little over a minute and a half after leaving the Westlake Mall. Tomorrow's rapid transit here and operating today.
Well, we made it right on time. And right behind me is Stan Davis with our Creepy Peepee, the camera which took the pictures along the entire monorail route. Boy, you did a fine job, Stan.
Thanks very
Looked
much,
great.
Bill.
Friends, we'll be back with you with a little word about how the monorail was built and how it operates in just a minute.
You're watching the World of Tomorrow, brought to you from the grounds of Century 21, Seattle's World's Fair. About 6 months after Alweg opened a design and engineering office in Seattle, construction on America's first rapid transit monorail got underway. Concrete piers were drilled 25 feet deep under the center of the street. Then concrete forms for T-columns were set up right beside each pier. After reinforcing steel was assembled in the form, these sturdy yet graceful appearing columns were poured right on the site, but lying then in a prone position. When the concrete had cured and the form was stripped away, a mobile crane moved in and lifted the T-columns into position on their piers. Soon the spread eagle pylons stretched in a long line down Fifth Avenue. Unlike the supporting columns, the concrete rails were precast off the site. The giant beams 3 feet wide and 5 feet deep were made by Concrete Technology of Tacoma. Not ordinary concrete, these beams have properties unknown in concrete until the pre-stressed principle was developed in Europe about 20 years ago. Strands of high-strength steel are stretched inside the form before the concrete is poured and released after the concrete is hardened. This combination of concrete and steel under tension has unusually high strength to support the load and also withstand a certain amount of natural twisting action due to centrifugal and wind forces. There are approximately 140 beams in the line with an average length of about 85 feet. A little later, we'll show you exactly how the train rides the beam.
They dropped me off. I've been having a very interesting discussion here with Ben Covey to my immediate left. Ben is the engineer in charge of the project here for Howard S. Wright Construction Company, and Garvin Brakel, who is the job superintendent. Ben, what exactly is Howard S. Wright's job in the overall project?
Well, we have the contract for the construction of the monorail line and the 2 terminals at either end.
How long have you been on the project, Ben?
I've been on the project since February of 1961.
Garvin, when did you first break ground for the first supporting column?
We started the test putting March 25th, 61.
Has Howard S. Wright built the huge beams on which the train runs, Ben?
No, those beams were subcontracted out to Concrete Technology in Tacoma.
Garvin, is it true that traffic was uninterrupted throughout the entire construction process?
We were able to keep 3 lanes of traffic open, cut down to 2 while we were pouring, and then, of course, while we were lifting our columns, we stopped it altogether for a few minutes.
Just for a few minutes at a time. What's yet to be done, Ben?
It's merely a final adjustment of the monorail line and painting and cleanup on the terminals.
As far as Howard S. Wright is concerned, all systems are go, right?
That's right.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Thank you.
While the line was being built in Seattle, construction of the 2 trains was underway in the small city of Salzgitter, Germany. Construction began in July of last year. While the train looks sleek and simple on the rail, it is, of course, a highly complex vehicle engineered for a new mode of transportation. Underneath its high-strength aluminum skin, there is a carefully designed structure and a vast array of components. Although fabricated and assembled in a factory not far south of Braunschweig, Germany, it is 40% an American product. General Electric motors, Westinghouse air brakes, Firestone tires, and even upholstery are among the materials and components that came from the United States. Completed cars were transported to the port of Bremerhaven and from there shipped to the United States. Train number 1, which we are watching in operation tonight, was transferred to rail cars in New York and traveled across the continent by rail. Train number 2 will come all the way by ocean transport, arriving in Seattle sometime between March 20th and 25th. Trains arrived in Seattle in 4 sections and have been referred to as 4-car trains. More accurately, a train is composed of 2 cars, for Allweg designates the end section with driver's cab and the adjacent section as 1 car. The 2 are rigidly connected and parted only if necessary for maintenance work. The other 2 sections form another car, which is pointed in the opposite direction. Even though it is considered a second car, it's coupled rigidly to the first for most economical operation. In designing monorail systems, a number of variations are possible. If there were a turnaround and one-direction operation of the train, Allweg could build a train with a front end and a rear end. But in this case, we have 2 aerodynamically formed ends with a driver's cab pointing in each direction. The train never turns around. The driver just moves to the other end. The 2-car, 4-section operating unit is considered the most practical for all normal demands, regardless of the volume of traffic.
Let's talk with Mr. Gunther Wengatz, the engineer who designed the monorail train. Mr. Wengatz, why are these 2 sections referred to as 1 car?
Because one complete set of electrical equipment, brake equipment, controls, and auxiliaries are installed in 2 sections.
There are driver controls at both ends of the train.
That's correct.
Does this mean that 2 drivers can control the train simultaneously?
No, it cannot be. For this purpose, to avoid any human error, we developed a special interlock system which allows only having control in one end of the train.
You know, when I saw the pictures of these cars on the dock in New York, I had no idea that they had such dramatic, such dynamic lines as we see here on the dock.
Yeah, that's right. That question has been discussed several times, but now, as you see the train standing on that spot where it actually belongs to, it looks quite different.
Certainly does. Where are the motors located?
The motors are located below the floor in the lower part of the train.
How many motors are there on the train?
On the train, we have 8 motors.
Are they controlled simultaneously?
They are controlled simultaneously.
What about the braking system, sir?
The brake system is an air system, which is controlled simultaneously.
Is there some sort of a fail-safe system?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
In the event the air fails, then the train stops automatically, right?
That's correct.
You know, I'm no engineer, but certainly this is a fine train to ride on. I've really enjoyed the ride.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Wengatz.
In the Allweg system, the train snuggles like an inverted horseshoe on the rail beam. And perhaps you didn't realize that there are many tires on the train which roll exactly perpendicular to the tires on your car. Not solid rubber, but pneumatic tires of tubeless nylon cord hidden underneath the long skirt of the train. They do much to provide the cushioned, rubber-tired ride of the monorail. Even now you can't see the big load-carrying tires that roll on top of the beam. But visible to our camera below are the guiding, stabilizing wheels that roll horizontally along both sides of the beam. This lower level of the World's Fair terminal will be the working home for 3 electricians and 2 mechanics, hired by Century 21 and supervised by Allweg.
This is Harry Hinkey, Assistant Vice President in charge of administration for Century 21. Harry, what exactly is the monorail going to mean to this great World's Fair?
Well, the monorail will be a great World's Fair symbol. Like all World's Fairs have had their symbols, the monorail and the Space Needle and the Federal Science Pavilion will be the Seattle World's Fair symbols.
One of the great drawing cards to this fair.
It certainly will be.
In spite of this, however, it can't be considered as another amusement ride at the fair, can it?
No, as all World's Fair guests are going to find out, this is a first-class, full-scale World's Fair transportation system.
Sort of a glimpse into the rapid transit of the future, is that
It certainly is.
I know that all has not gone smoothly from beginning to end in the planning of the fair. Was there ever a time when you thought perhaps there wouldn't be a monorail at Century 21?
Oh, I'm sure there were some times when it looked like the monorail wouldn't be. However, once the Allweg company had their agreements completed and the Howard Wright Construction Company started on work, it was a pretty easy job from there on in.
This is just one more example, a very dramatic example, I might add, of the bold planning that has gone into this entire project. You're to be complimented. Thank you very much, Harry.
But the future of monorail in Seattle is really a larger and longer question. It relates to the need for rapid transit in the developing metropolitan world, trunk lines to airports and suburban areas, for example. The World's Fair preview may answer some questions in the same way that early space flights did. From this, there could come a pattern of the future. But whether or not this is a milestone in transit history, the future will decide.
We'll be back in just a minute with a progress report on the entire World's Fair.
47 days before opening, and the final appearance of the fairgrounds is suddenly coming in view. The Opera House and the new face of the old ice arena blend in a slender colonnade facing Mercer Street. In fact, since we were here last, just 4 weeks ago, the grounds have been fully enclosed. A few weeks ago, weekend crowds roamed over the site almost at will, through an open jumble of construction. Now the cars, many from out of state, can only circle the fence. Here at the northwest corner of the grounds, the enclosure appears today just as it will throughout the fair. With construction in the final stages, the whole area is restricted now. Guards police the few access gates for crews that include more and more painters all the time. The big snow created only a little anxiety. If it had to come this winter, the history-making end of February was a good time for it. April 21 may be too close for comfort, but Century 21 is now go all the way. People whose knowledge of great expositions goes back to the World's Fair in Chicago in the 1890s say that Seattle probably has the best on-time preparation record of them all. On Federal Knoll, they're completing the open Gothic spires that will greet visitors to the magnificent $9 million U.S. Science Pavilion. Fair fever is now gripping the exhibitors, and the weather can do little to slow the work on eye-popping displays now moving into Seattle by boat, train, and plane from all over the world. From here on, it's mostly clean-up and touch-up, and work behind the curtain that will rise on schedule, April 21st.
We hope you'll join us when again we present The World of Tomorrow. 2 weeks from tonight, Monday at 8 p.m., our World of Tomorrow cameras will be back on the fairground site for another inside behind-the-scenes visit at one of the other very exciting aspects of this great World's Fair. Until then, this is Bill Nielsen. Good night.
World of Tomorrow, an inside view of Century 21, the Seattle World's Fair, will be seen again in 2 weeks, and with growing frequency as the opening day approaches and full operations begin on April 21. This is Martin Tobin saying good night from the site of the great World's Fair in Seattle.
Will originate from the fair all next